Every time in your life you've been in mortal danger, a small cat has appeared that casually yet miraculously leads you to safety. Now, as your plane plummets from the sky, spiraling towards the ground, the cat pops out of the overhead compartment. Right by you /naser_the_laser. Pro? Whiskers meowed thoughtfully, asking me what was going on. I was hyperventilating into my overhead oxygen mask as the woman next to me screamed into hers. The captain had stopped relaying what was happening after he announced that multiple engines had given up on the plane. He was desperately trying to level the plane as we descended at faster speeds, approaching a nosedive. Mro? Whiskers nodded, hopping out the top on the overhead compartment, my backpack falling after her. She looked back at me and then gestured forward with her head. She walked toward the bathroom. Whiskers, I can't. If I take off the oxygen mask I might the woman screamed next to me, pointing to the window. The ground was now visible and approaching us recklessly. Whiskers looked at me, whipped her tail, and walked to the bathroom door, waiting patiently in front of it. My body shook viciously from the adrenaline and fear. My head whipped to look out the window, and then back to Whiskers. Gah, fine. I screamed, tearing off my mask and running down the aisle. I passed by many more panicking passengers. Some hunched over praying, others screaming at the top of their lungs, and some quietly awaiting for the inevitable. They stared straight ahead, like they could see death approaching. I was just about to make it to the bathroom when a flight attendant pretty much collapsed in front of me, slamming his face into the door to get in my way. You need to get back to your seat, now. He ordered, putting his arms up as if to carry me there himself. You don't understand. Whiskers is here, which means I have to follow the cat for safety, I stammered, pointing at her in front of the bathroom. The steward didn't even turn his head. I know it's scary, but you have to go back. It's the safest place to be right now and you are. His voice trailed as he stared out the window behind me. We were level with mountains and still descending at a steep angle. We probably had seconds to spare. He mechanically turned and sat in his seat, putting his seat belt on. He looked at me regretfully, ashamed that he didn't try harder to save my life, but valuing his own in the face of my apparent negligence of safety and common sense. Mao. Whiskers called to me. I smashed the door open and closed the door behind me. I stood in the cramped space, not knowing what to do as Whiskers jumped up to the counter next to me. She tapped a paw on the sink. I went to pet her and she scratched at me, hissing. She pawed the sink again. I gasped involuntarily, trying to get a grasp of myself. I'm supposed to turn it on? She looked at me expectantly. I obeyed the order, and watched her dip a paw in the running water. Then she licked the droplets from her paw. My heart dropped. This wasn't meant for anything, she was just thirsty. So, this is how I die. The plane smashed into something outside and tore a huge hole in the walls of the bathroom. My eyes started pouring tears in fear as I was sucked out the opening and thrown out the plane. I screamed the whole way down, but didn't die on impact. It hurt for sure, but I was in the middle of water. It took me about 10 seconds to understand which way was up, and I swam as fast as I could. I was in a lake, near the shore. From what I could tell from the destroyed terrain, the plane hit a rock jutting out the mountain next to the lake, and I was the only one to be sucked out into the lake. Whiskers was miraculously on the shore, watching me with her deep, intelligent eyes. I couldn't see any other bodies around me. I think the hole I came through was only as big as the bathroom was. Suddenly, I heard a colossal explosion from behind me. I spun around in the water to see shrapnel from the plane flying in all directions around it. The whole thing had exploded on landing. I looked for another few seconds in pure shock before pulling myself to shore. Whiskers stood just out of arm's reach, leaving me unable to pet her. Thanks, I said, feeling stupid talking to her. She turned around, uninterested, and disappeared up the mountain. I wouldn't see her until my next traumatic experience.